Good morning. We are today here at Uruguay Embassy in New Delhi, and we are very honored and happy to have His Excellency Mr. Alberto Guani, the Ambassador of Uruguay in India. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this visit and welcome you too.
Thank you, sir. And just a little brief about Uruguay as a country. Uruguay is a South American country. It is also called as River of Painted Birds. It is a Spanish-speaking country, and it has a longest national anthem. And the famous sport is football and basketball. This is the little information which I have, but we would like to know more information about Uruguay from you, sir.
Well, we are a South American country, like you said. We are almost 15,000 kilometers away from India, and we are practically in the middle, bordered by Brazil and Argentina. Uruguay is very well known also because of its affection towards football, as you said. We were the first country to hold a World Championship in 1930. We have a photographic exhibition that we are going to present in the next weeks here in New Delhi in the Cervantes Institute about this championship. And we are very much, as a country of football, looking forward to what's going to happen in the World Championship in Qatar, starting on the 20th of November. Uruguay is also well known for its beaches, its places, its nice the temperature. It's a country with no contamination practically. We breathe clean air, and we have a lot of many other attractions like our gastronomy, our sightseeing, our beaches, as I told you, and of course our culture is quite important for the region. We have many writers and many literature exponents that we have been presenting here. Also, we have translated into Hindi some of them, like for example, José Enrique Rodó with his title Ariel, that's been translated into Hindi, and the Cuentos de la Selva by Horacio Quiroga also has been translated by the University of New Delhi into Hindi. We have them available, and we hope that you can enjoy them too.
Okay, great to know about the beautiful country Uruguay. And next will be the bilateral relationships between India and Uruguay. So for this, I call upon our Global President, Dr. Jitendra Joshi. Thank you.
Hello friends, and it's a very nice fresh morning here. We are in the Embassy of Uruguay and with very energetic ambassador. Very good morning, sir.
Very good morning to you too, and welcome here to the Embassy of Uruguay.
Yeah, thank you. I was just hearing about your details about Uruguay. Definitely Uruguay is one of the best countries, what I heard. I definitely not yet visited, but we are very keen to visit soon. As it is known for many good things. I think, as Deepali has just mentioned, is the longest anthem in the world. There are so many feathers in the cap of Uruguay. In 1930, you said even the first soccer world championship has been arranged by Uruguay. In 1950, you defeated Brazil and you got the world champion. And I think even today Uruguay is definitely very famous for many things. As you said, is nice beaches are there. Apart from that, there are so many business opportunities, and as per my knowledge, it is the happiest country in South America, second richest in South American country.
8 hours is too much, but at that time, at the beginning of last century, it was a big conquer. And we have many social advancements, like we were the first country to allow the vote for women, and where also divorce was established. And then we are a country where many of the progressive legislature has been established. That's why many times we have been called like the Switzerland of the South America. And mainly we are not a very big populated country because we are 3.5 million. That means we have a lot of territory that is inhabited, and that's sometimes one of the things that people are also amazed about seeing in Uruguay, that you can go in the countryside and maybe don't see any people, just find cows and sheep. We have more cows and sheep than people, and that is also another fact that we are an agro-industrial country. We have been practically, we have had relationships with India. We have diplomatic relationships since next year it's going to be 75 years. So we have a very long friendship with India. We have established an embassy in Delhi in 1988, and well, we are waiting for India to open an embassy in Montevideo. That we hope that will happen soon. And we have had a good, let's say, friendship during all this time, in which also Indian companies have established themselves in Uruguay. We have the example of Tata Consulting that has been there for almost 20 years. We have another company, Infogain, that also opened its doors in Uruguay. And we are very much into the IT, communications and innovation. We are the first software producer in South America. And we have established what it's called the system of one computer per child. It's a Negroponte invention that every child in the schools should have a computer. It's a way of teaching through words, computers. And we have that established in Uruguay since 2006, more or less. So it's a country that has put itself into all the requirements for innovation, and we have the highest speed transmission of data in the region. We have big data storage too. You have access to Wi-Fi in every part of the country. So we are very well connected, and that's one of the reasons many companies are establishing themselves in Uruguay, because it gives you services and it gives you all its infrastructure to make a company work well in there.
So it is a small country, but so many things to talk about Uruguay, as His Excellency has rightly mentioned. There are so many things to talk. The nice beaches is definitely very, very important thing. There are so many opportunities. Even India and Uruguay has very long bilateral relationship. Almost, so next year the 75 years India-Uruguay is completing. Even the livestock is very big. As you rightly mentioned, the 3.5 million the population of Uruguay. At the same time, almost as per our knowledge, almost 2.8 million cows there.
14 million.
14, oh my God. So it's a very, very big number. And actually, as a Global India Business Forum is interacting with a lot of different countries. And we found that Uruguay is definitely one of the best countries that Indian tourists should visit, considering it's the nice beaches, nice weather. So I just want to throw light on maybe the sector wise. So for India is very famous for the destination wedding also. Indians are very much fond of do traveling all across the world. And most of the tourists, Indian tourists nowadays visiting in the Singapore, Pattaya, maybe the Southeast Asia, and the best choice is Europe. So how can you want to promote Uruguay as a country, or maybe the South America as a destination where Indian tourists should definitely come in more and more numbers in future?
Well, one of the things we say, it is very important for us to get a linkage much closer in tourism, is that connectivity is very important. We practically have to make the travel to Uruguay, through Europe, or through Doha or Dubai, and their connections through Sao Paulo in Brazil to Uruguay. I think that we need to see that at the moment, for example, there's been a small population of Indians living in Uruguay. There are almost 1,000 by now. They're starting to open also Indian restaurants, and the Indian culture is getting through them much closer to us. You can see around, we have a coastline that it's almost 34 kilometers in the capital city, where people go stroll and walk around, and there part of this road is also called Mahatma Gandhi. So it's we have a very important. We have received the visit of Indira Gandhi in 1968. So it's about time that we have received a big other political representative of India now in our country. We will gladly be receiving them, and we think that the important thing for the Indian tourists is that it's a far country, but it's a very enjoyable country in which you can have the proofs of good gastronomy. You can have as I said, the excellence of our environment. We are a very protective country towards the environment.
So definitely Uruguay is one of the best destination to visit. Sir, actually we are just discussing about the business aspect of it. Actually Uruguay economy is definitely one of the strongest economy in the South America, and as the second richest country in South America in terms of GDP. So in that case, sir, I just want to know, this agriculture based economy is there, as almost 60% product what you export is related to agro or agriculture related things. So I just want to know what exactly the reason behind that so much export is from that particular sector.
Well, yes, agribusiness is practically the primary of our economy. We produce a lot of food. Practically, we have been producing food for almost 30 million people, and it's good quality food, and that has to do with practically all kind of fruits, vegetables, and kinds of meat from different origins. And Uruguay is one of the biggest meat exporters in the world. We are also exporting cereal and wheat and corn, and we have a big position in agribusiness. So that's practically the main income of the country. But at the same time, we are very well positioned in services. One of the good positioning in services has to do with tourism, and we offer a lot of facilities and infrastructure for visitors to come in. And of course, these COVID years have been quite difficult for that, but our main tourism comes from Argentina and from Brazil. We are also looking for tourism from Europe, and that's why services and the completion of services, transportation, and the network and logistics is also part of our main things. We have a natural harbor in Montevideo, in the capital city, that is practically already doing for 1 million tons. TEUs, that is practically what is the measure of these ports, and we are positioning ourselves to be the hub of South America. We want that there is practically a 200 million population around Uruguay that we can service from Uruguay. And I think that that's where it is also interesting for Indian companies to establish themselves in Uruguay. We find that even though, as you well said, agro-business is our main income, we have other sources of incomes. And as I told you also, we are the biggest software producer, and some directly programs as Genexus, that is a program that is used by most of the banks, was invented by a Uruguayan, and we are focusing on many services companies like Mercado Libre and other ones that are being positioned themselves to distribute from Uruguay to the region. So we think that although agribusiness is the main source of income, we have other incomes, and as I said, we are the highest income country right now in South America because of the distribution of income per inhabitant and make us the richest one that pays the biggest, the highest salaries.
Definitely for any business, actually, as we always say, the safety security really matters a lot. So Uruguay is one of the safest country in South America, because businessmen always look the stability, but for the stability you need safety, security. At the same time, the government support. That government support is specifically the standard which is defined as the ease of doing business. So ease of doing business wise also, so Uruguay, I think one of the best rank in the world. So will you please tell us about these two aspects of the safety, how Uruguay government is ensuring the safety, security, and at the same time the ease of doing business, so that more and more business should come to Uruguay. Specifically our Indian MSME businessmen want to know from you, sir.
Sure. Well, as I said before, practically one of the main capitals that the country has, it's its stability. That stability means that we practically, for example, for investors, we have the same treatments for Uruguayan investors than for foreign investors. And they have norms, and there's a regulation, and there's a whole, the legislature and the law enforcement to make the contracts to be complied. It's a country that respects its contracts. You can have your profits and when you're established in Uruguay and take the money away of the country without any problems.
So as we are discussing about the safety security aspect, and at the same time it is very much necessary when the businessmen are getting attracted. So in that case they are hoping for citizenship, or when they want to come to the country, what sort of visa facilities available so that they can stay long there. So I just want to know from your side, what are the basically norms for this citizenship norms? The Indian businessmen may those who want to come there to settle there to do business, anything specific for the such kind of businessmen, those who are keen to settle down there?
Well, we are permanently issuing visas. We have a visa treatment among the countries. That's something that we maybe in the future should make that easier, not to avoid having visas. But for now it exists, and it's not that complicated. Generally one needs to have a requirement of a certain linkage with a Uruguayan company. And when there is already a branch of the company in Uruguay, it's much easier. We're constantly issuing visas for the Tata employees that they practically have around 800 now working in Uruguay. So that is something very common for us to do. It's not very difficult. Once there is an investment in the country also, it is easier to apply for the residency. That is something that comes practically when you invest a certain amount in property, or you invest in an industry or whatever. You get the access of possibility of receiving the residency in the country, which takes more or less a period of 5 years, but then you get it, and after that you can even receive a passport. So the conditions for the establishment of investment capital in the country are not that difficult and not complicated, and we make easier things for the investors. So that's why we think it's something that it's not a very complicated issue.
Friends, population is one of the big issue in the world. Since long now, even the Indian population is also growing. Maybe we will be one of the first country where actually the biggest population in the world in 2023, crossing China. So talking about the population growth, the Uruguay play a very important role, because I think the birth control pills has been invented in Uruguay. Yeah, and this is the very important contribution by Uruguay has invented the birth control pill. And at the same time, a lot of things we heard about the pharmaceutical industry. Because Uruguay is also known as a good pharmaceutical industry. So will you please tell us about these both the aspects, the control of birth, this is a really good contribution, and the same time the pharmaceutical industry where Indian pharmaceutical companies also very keen that maybe they can come to the South American market for, and considering the not just the Uruguay as a business area, but the lot of country around the Uruguay.
Well, it is an important fact. First of all, the fact of the control of population is something that in Uruguay practically it's a normal activity. And regarding the pharmaceutical business, it's something that it's a very well established business in Uruguay. We have also been working in the fact of what has to do with all kinds of products to be produced in the country, also for the region. And we think there could be a very interesting pharmaceutical association between India Pharma and Uruguayan Pharma, which is also something that is very much in the line of business that could be done. And we think that the pharmaceutical business in Uruguay is very strong and has produced great products, and it's very well known. It has its prestige in the region and worldwide. So we think we can do good things together in that area.
Many Indian businessmen are now those who want to come to Uruguay specifically. Which are the other sectors actually you are looking for so that Indian businessmen should come there and contribute in that specific sector, apart from agro, apart from pharma, and even the IT industry? Apart from these three industries, which are the other industries actually maybe Uruguay is a good place for the Indian MSME businessmen to come there, and there is a good potential in that particular region of South America?
Well, whatever has to do with the know-how and it has to do with innovation and the connectivity, we are, I've also said, one of the countries that has more iPhones per person in the region. The people are very much connected to the different systems that exist, and we think that in the IT industry there's a lot to do besides what is being done, and I think that in communications and what has to do with the different types of, for example, Uruguay is a very green country too. We are practically the second country in the world with the application of renewable energies. We have been second place after Denmark, and Uruguay is on the second place. We have applied renewable energies in wind energy, solar energy, biomass, and now we are going also into hydrogen. That is also something very important for India. India is going to go to look upon this hydrogen source too, and there can be a very interesting association there too between the two countries. I think that in energy is a very important section where Uruguay is working very hard and very good to establish itself as in 2030 we are going to be carbon free, and we are also applying ourselves right now. There are almost 200 buses that circulate that are electric. We have taxis that are also electric, and we want the whole system of transportation to be electric. We have the only electric highway in South America that is located in Uruguay. So there are very great expectations and possibilities in what has to do with renewable energies, and that's an area that I find it's something that we can work together and very well with very interesting future possibilities. Uruguay was a country that would import energy, and now we can export energy. So it's something that it's very important to have partners to do more things in the energy business.
So this is really good example that in past you are importing the energy and now you are become self-sufficient, not just self-sufficient, but you are in a position now to export energy to other countries. So this is a really good point to take away from this particular discussion. So wine is definitely very important product, because I think this is now a lot of consumption is happening at the worldwide, and people are always looking for the best wines in the test from the various countries. Uruguay is also one of the country where wine production is very good. Please tell us, sir, about what sort of wine is available and what exactly even the business opportunity in terms of winery this field.
India is a very growing market for wine. It's something that is also changing the tradition, because wine was something a consumption only for women at that certain time. Now it's a consumption with men too, and it's something that is changing the different attitudes of people. And I think that it's a great moment to think about Uruguayan wine in India. It's a new perspective. We also produce liquors, and we also produce champagne, or méthode champagnoise, because for denomination of origin we cannot say champagne, that comes only from France. And méthode champagnoise is what we make as a bubbling wine, and it's also a great production.
So friends, till now we had a very good discussion. There are good opportunity in Uruguay for Indian MSME businessmen in the field of agro, in terms of IT, in terms of renewable energy, in terms of winery, in terms of travel and tourism, hospitality segment. So there are so many opportunity for the businessmen, those who really want to think out of the box. So at the same time, when we are talking about the business and culture go hand in hand. So the culture plays very important role when businessmen go there. But before that, actually, the cultural exchange should always happen. And this is not just the entertainment point of view, but where actually people to people and heart to heart contact is very important. So India and Uruguay, that both the countries have a really rich culture is there. So what is your plan, sir? How can we boost that cultural aspect between India and Uruguay?
Well, that's a very important aspect of our relationship, because we think that, there are many things that maybe the Indians know, but that they do not know, that are also shared by Uruguay. Like, for example, tango is one of the expressions of music that we share with Argentina. That is practically something that comes from the Rio de la Plata, that means from the Silver River, that is what divides us two nations. And we have had great exponents of tango that were from Uruguay too. We also have the contribution of the Afro descendants, that it's candombe. It's something that we have in music, and that has to do with the contribution of I would say the time of the slaves, so that in Uruguay were not slaves anymore because they were liberated. And we received the culture, that part from Africa, that is transformed into the carnival. We have the longest carnival in the world, because it starts at the end of December and it goes practically to the beginning of April. So it's a very long carnival, the longest carnival in the world. And you have Las Llamadas, that is the time in February where you can go and see practically where it was brought by the Afro descendants, and that sort of carnival that you can enjoy. We have many possibilities that we have been trying to translate, even authors of Uruguayans into Hindi. Like, there are two examples of José Enrique Rodó with his book Ariel, and also of Horacio Quiroga, Cuentos de la Selva, the stories of the jungle. That is stories for children, which are also important contributions. We have many writers that are also on the expectancy of being translated. and think that our literature has been also very contributive. We have also created theater, and we ballet, and we have many other expressions. And we think that our culture and what has to do with painters also is a very interesting contribution that needs to be in a certain way transmitted and shared. We are hoping that we can do some things together on the 75th anniversary of our diplomatic relations.
Many countries. I just want to know lastly what you expect from the Indian government in terms of business growth between these two countries, cultural growth between these countries. So maybe your some ideas or thoughts about Indian government should contribute in these particular areas more and more in future.
Well, I think that it is very important that India looks more towards Uruguay. That is a very important issue. We have been saying that the big countries in the region are practically the ones that are being paid attention by India. I think it needs to pay attention also to look towards the small countries like Uruguay. That would be a very, very important contribution. We need that. We need that to be focused also in the fact that we can be a very good strategic partner for India, because we are also, like India is the practically biggest democracy in the world. It's also one of the oldest, and we are also a very old democracy. Democracies together can do things that other systems of government cannot do. So I think that it's a good time to put the two countries to work together in a real, very assertive way. And I think that it would be very important also that the government makes a more direct approximation. It is going to be more than 50 years already since we had Indira Gandhi in 1968 in Uruguay. So it's about time that we get an important visit of an Indian dignitary in Uruguay. That will be much welcome, and I think that the presence also of India in the region is very important for us, but not only in the big countries, also in the small countries that have also a say, a word, and a contribution in nowadays world that is very important to share with India.
Definitely, I think all our Indian senior government guys, those who are watching this interviews, definitely they will take the point into consideration, and this will be a really good time that India should connect more and more countries, which is already happening at the our ministry level, and we are very happy that even our Prime Minister Mr. Modi, Honorable Shri Narendra Ji Modi, he is doing great job, and he is almost a big, not just an Indian leader, but now the international face, the global face. The last comment about the contribution of our Prime Minister for the globe.
Well, yes, it is very important. I mean, now India is occupying a place that it's very important. Practically now, in December, it's going to preside the Security Council of the United Nations. It's also going to assume the International Organization of Shanghai. It's also going to preside. Health is something that we are very much seeing as a very encouraging. A lot of this has to do with the energy and the great efforts that Prime Minister Modi has been putting into all this. And we think it is the time for India to show that it has a place, and a very important place in this world. And we hope that this also is a benefit for the whole globe, because it's something that we need the energy and the contribution that India can give to make of this a better world.
Thank you so much, sir. This is a really nice discussion today as we touch for different aspects of sports, culture, business, and definitely the future relationship between India and Uruguay. And Global India Business Forum is very keen that how India can become a superpower soon, and these particular efforts are definitely are there to contribute from our side to make the relationship stronger between each and every country. Thank you for your overall comment and the discussion what you had with us today, sir. Thank you so much.
I thank you for your also input. It was a very interesting conversation, and I'm very glad to salute your Indian audience and tell them that they're all very much welcome in Uruguay, and that we would like to progress very much in our relationship with India.
Thank you so much.